Hi, this is Brad with Gearheads, and today I'm going to show you how to solder conductors for a wiring harness. This is just the most basic method. The first thing I'm going to start off with is the equipment that I use. For strippers, I use a set of Ideal. They go up to a 20 gauge. They work better on the smaller wire that you're going to normally find on a wiring harness in a car or a motorcycle. I use a Weller programmable soldering station. I like to run my soldering tip at around 600 degrees. And with this station, you can set it all the way down. You have complete control over the temperature of the tip. I use an ODI number 5 lead-free solder paste. I don't use a rosin core solder. I prefer to use a solid core solder and do my own fluxing. And for solder, I use the Johnson Electronics grade solder. Well, anyway, let's get started. The first thing I do is I take my conductor, I measure back about 1 inch, and I strip it back at that point. I take the ends of the wire, I center them up, and then I twist them up. You want to make sure that you don't have the ends of the wire overhanging onto the insulation, because it looks very ragged when you put your shrink tube on, and it just doesn't look very clean. You want to make sure you have a nice, smooth, straight conductor. I take my flux and I apply it, and make sure that you apply this generously, because you want that solder to flow when it hits the conductor, because you don't want any dry solder joints. You take your conductor, take your iron, lay my iron on the middle of the conductor, the bare area that I'm soldering. I take my solder, I insert it between the pinch of the tip of the iron and the conductor that I'm soldering, and then I make sure that I get plenty of coverage all the way up and down the conductor. Then you take this and you can clean it with alcohol, apply your shrink tube, and there you have it. You have a good connection. Just remember, when you're soldering on a wiring harness, that quite often you do not have the luxury of doing it at a bench. You're usually doing it under the hood of a car or on a bike or something like that. You want to make sure that you get your shrink tube on and far enough away from the connection you're soldering, because you want to do that before you solder it. And you want to make sure it's back far enough to where the shrink tube doesn't start shrinking before you're ready to use it. Anyway, that concludes our lesson for today. Please look forward in the future to any other classes I may be putting on. Thank you.